morning. Welcome to the second xarvio Field Manager webinar. Today our title is Using Digital Technology for Targeted Inputs and How Variable Rate Application Supports Farm Profitability. Thank you all for joining. If it's your first webinar with us, great to see you. This is one of a series of webinars. So do look back at the previous one, which was a few weeks ago now. That should be in the virtual farm and also on the xarvio YouTube page. And of course, do look out for future webinars. There'll be some more coming up in the coming weeks where we look at other xarvio Field Manager functionality. And yeah, we'll keep you informed of these on our web pages and via email. Before we start, let me give you some organizational information. To ensure everything runs smoothly, you're all on mute, and therefore to ask questions, it's best to use the chat box, which is just to the right of the screen. And if you're in full screen mode, you'll have to come out of that if you're looking to write a question in there. Also, just to say that the webinar is recorded, and you can watch it back further into the future. So if you want to revisit anything, you'll be able to do that too. Today, our speakers are Luke Pollard, who's the xarvio implementation lead for the UK, and also Anna Crockford, who is our xarvio agronomist in the UK. And they've both got lots of experience in this area to share with you this morning. So here you can see our agenda. I'm going to hand over to Luke in a second to give a bit of an intro into xarvio Field Manager, before he hands on to Anna, who's going to look a bit more at the variable rate application functionality that we have within the tool, share some of our results from trials, and give you a live demo as well. And then it will be back to me for question and answer session and a good conversation with both of the speakers at the end. The whole thing should take about an hour, so we better get started, and I will hand across now to Luke. Luke, over to you.
Thanks, Louis. So firstly, I'm going to give an overview of xarvio and xarvio Field Manager. So xarvio Digital Farming is the digital arm of BASF, and it has a presence globally with with its different products, which you can see on this slide. And it has a strong and growing presence in Europe. And again, you can see the stats here that show that. The aim of xarvio is to develop digital farming solutions that can help growers and agronomists to improve and automate their crop production by providing agronomic insights for your crops and data-driven crop models to assist with agronomic decision-making on farm. So today, we're going to talk about xarvio Field Manager and its features around the variable rate application of inputs. xarvio Field Manager is one of the two products launched under the xarvio brand in the UK, along with xarvio Scouting. xarvio Field Manager was launched at the start of 2020, and what it is a digital solution aimed at helping you to optimize your crop production and in-field activities during the whole of the season, from the seeding of your crop right the way through to the harvest. So Field Manager is available on your web browser or available as a mobile application, and both applications access the same data via the cloud. So you always have Field Manager updates and insights at hand whenever you need it, whether that's in the field or in the office. So after the launch of Field Manager at the beginning of last year, we had 1,100 new growers using the system throughout the spring. Field Manager differs from other digital farming tools available on the market, as it has features that will help you from the seeding of your crop all the way through to harvest. So this slide shows a quick overview of the key features and functionality within the system. So for each of the fields and each of the crops that you add to your digital farm, you will receive biomass map imagery from satellite data and receive updates throughout the season. You'll also receive in-depth weather information. So looking forward into the future at the weather forecast and the spray weather windows, and also looking back at historic data up to 1 year in the past. You can also document your tasks, activities, and applications within Field Manager and create field notes where you can geotag a field note. So geotag an area of the field that you want to make a note against, and also create a written comment against it, but also take a photograph to pin against that note. You can upload your own field maps as well, such as seeding maps or yield maps, and you can compare them and analyze them using the analytics functionality. And you can also bring in the biomass maps, which Xarvio provides, and analyze them with that as well. So once you've created your digital farm and added your farm's crops and activities, you might then want to share access to your farm with others, so others part of your farm team. So your spray contractor, for example, or your agronomist. So sharing access to your farm can help with your teamwork and can help you collaborate within your team. So Xarvio also uses crop data modeling to provide alerts for the optimal timing for fertilizer applications and the optimal timing for crop protection applications. And the information that's used to drive this crop data modeling is information such as the crop type, the variety of the crop, really importantly, when that drop was drilled. And it's always looking at the latest weather information for that field to understand the specific situation specific to that field and that crop, to provide these agronomic insights. So what we're going to talk about more today actually is the ability to create variable maps for seeding, to adjust seeding density in different areas of the field, variable application maps for fertilizer, for NP and K, and variable maps for crop protection, so PGR and fungicide. But before I hand over to Anna to do that, I'm going to talk about the biomass maps, the information that we have about biomass maps within Field Manager first, because this forms a key part of a lot of these variable application maps. So for each field, Field Manager provides these biomass maps from satellite imagery, as I said, and this helps you to get the best understanding of your crop development throughout the season and to see the in-field variability of your crop. So up to 100 biomass map images will be provided for each field per season, as well as helping you to understand the crop development. These maps can help you find areas of the field that need further investigation, such as areas that are suffering from flooding, where there could be a damaged drain, for example, or areas where the crop is establishing more slowly, that might need additional attention going forward. So what's different about the biomass map imagery provided by Field Manager? Well, we use leaf area index, or LAI, to analyze the satellite information. And this is an improved method of analyzing the information captured by satellites to provide a measure of crop biomass for that field. LAI is looking specifically at the leaf canopy and not the whole crop, and measures the amount of light intercepted by the canopy. The way that leaf area index biomass imagery is delivered means that the maps are comparable across the fields and throughout the season, as the scale of the map is always consistent. Also, LAI leaf area index analysis of the satellite information maintains a greater resolution throughout more of the growing season. It has less of a saturation issue compared to NDVI. So this means that the biomass variation in the field can continue to be observed longer into the season. So for example, if we look at the images here on the slide and look at the top row labeled LAI, where we have the images in green, and comparing this to the bottom row where we have the pinky purple NDVI images, we could see that as we move into late April, early May, that actually we start to lose the resolution of the NDVI data. It becomes more saturated, whereas we continue to see the differences in the biomass variability across the field with LAI further into the season. Field Manager also provides a different kind of biomass image as well. So, and this is called a power zone map. So this map is based on up to 15 years of historic satellite biomass data from your field. So all the data is consolidated to create an average view of the biomass variability within the field. So in our research comparing these power zone maps to yield maps, we've seen a strong correlation between them. So now that I've given you a better understanding of the biomass imagery we provide, I'll hand over to Anna Crockford, our xarvio agronomist in the UK, who will talk to you about the variable application of inputs and the functionality we have within xarvio Field Manager.
Thank you, Luke. So as Luke mentioned, I'm going to be talking about zone spray. So zone spray is a functionality within xarvio, which allows the grower to either create a variable seeding, nutrition, or crop protection map. So for the example of crop protection, it will divide your map up to 5 zones, but it can be anywhere between 3 and 5. And it will divide them from the highest to the lowest. So your highest biomass zone tends to be your more high yielding, more denser looking crop areas, whereas your lower biomass areas tend to be your less productive, more scarce looking crops. So for the crop protection function, what it will ask you to do is just input your dose rate, the highest one you want to go to, obviously within legal limits, and it will dose it down for you. So that's kind of just an overview of what zone spray does, but I'll just go into more detail regarding each zone spray functionality. So as I mentioned, we do have the seeding map function. So it will ask you either to put the power zone map, which is your up to 15-year average LAI map, or you can choose another source, such as your yield map that you have uploaded. So it will upload it, and then it will divide it up to 5 zones if it has 5 zones, and the map. And then at that point, you can either keep it as it is and then just assign the different rates to it, or you can customize it. So if you want to merge some zones or make them larger or smaller, because you only want to use 3 rates instead of 5, that's absolutely fine. This is what this tool does. So very much relies on the user's input. And then finally, it will ask you for each rate for each zone you want to do. So it does work in kilograms per hectare for winter wheat. So if your average rate that you want to go to is 180 kilograms per hectare, you can dose it down or dose it up accordingly. That is all up to you. So then moving on to the fertilization functionality. So that's the function that's been around for around a year now within xarvio. So they will either ask you to put as a source map the power zone map again, or a live LAI map from the season. So as a user, you have either options. It will then ask you what products, or if you're going to use a custom product, you're going to use, and it will then give you the option to either put the high rate of your product on the higher biomass zones, or the lower rate into the lower biomass zones, or if you wanted to inverse that, it does let you. So depending what application of fertilizer it is, at what time of the season, you do have the option to slightly customize it. So yeah, so that's that functionality. And then last but not least, we do have our crop protection functionality. So it will either ask you for a power zone map again, or a live LAI map in season. So you can choose which one you want to use. You then state what products you're using, and you would tell it what's the highest dose rate you want to go to, and it will assign that to your highest biomass zone area. and then dose it down accordingly, depending whether it has 5 to 3 zones. So that's kind of an overview of all the 3 functionalities. So if you've created either of these maps, it will then save the task. And then from there, you can export it. So you can either export it through your USB memory stick in either a shape or ISO XML file. And then you can just import it into your terminal. But if you are a bit more connected and you use My John Deere, you can send your file through there. And you don't have to, use any USB sticks or anything like that. And you use the Wi-Fi to send it over. Alternatively, we are connected through imagery router, and that's a third party which works very similarly. So it will wirelessly transfer your maps from your computer straight to your terminal. Something that's new coming out in the future from xarvio is its new xarvio Connect. So this is a little purple box, as you see on my screen, that you connect to your terminal and works as like a black box sort of thing. So once you've created your maps on xarvio, you can automatically send it to this little purple box here, and it will wirelessly connect and send over the application map for you. So that's something that's coming out in the future, so worth looking out for. So now I'm just going to show you an example of how to import a variable rate map. So we've been talking about it, so I'm just going to show you a video and just kind of talk through it through each step. So this is an example of an ag leader in command terminal, which is found quite often in our sprayers around here. So step 1 is to select this application button here, and it will bring you to this operation configuration selection. So this is just like a quick overview, and it's just a sense check, i.e. is the vehicle correct and is it connected to the right sprayer. So if you just making sure that your terminal actually is connected to the right machinery. So that's what that just shows. So if that is correct, as it should be, you can kind of just move on to the next step. And it'll bring you to this menu here. So this is just, it will be unique for everyone. So you just need to select the growing season. So if it's this year, 2021, obviously the grower, so you can obviously save your application maps in different folders. Select the farm that you're spraying, you're going to be spraying, and obviously the field. So this will be very unique to everyone, but this, for the example, we've just called it ASF Field Manager Field 1. So once you're happy with that, it'll just bring you to this menu. So it's just asking you for the product selection. If this is an example of fungicide application map, so we've selected fungicide. Once you're happy with that, it'll just bring you here, and you just make sure that you're using liters per hectare. But that should all be correct. And then it'll bring you to this menu, which is kind of the main one where you can see your tractor in the field. Obviously, this is not in a field, it's in an office, so you don't see anything. So at this point now, we're actually going to be importing the map. So you can see here at this point, the USB stick has always been connected. So you can see here this kind of reddish thing that's glowing to the right of my screen. And yes, so I'll bring you to this menu, and you just want to select this spanner, this ranch, depending where you are in the world. You just want to select it. But if you don't see it, i.e. your screen will look like something like this when you open it, just click on that fungicide button in green, and it will just bring it to you. So now we select the spanner. I'll bring you to this menu. So this is where we're going to be importing the actual map. So you select this RX button with the little folder with the green arrow, and it'll bring you to here. So here's where you can actually see your files. You will have to, before you import it, unzip the files in order to view them. So if you don't see them immediately, chances are they're not actually unzipped. So you just have to make sure you do that beforehand. So now you can see your files. You select the shape one, which is the only one that you can actually select. So the one that ends in SHP. And we're happy with that. And we press go. And you just want to make sure we got the right columns selected. So within xarvio map, you only have the RX column. So that's the only one you could select. Product fungicide, and obviously the units will always be liters per hectare when we're talking about a crop protection variable rate map. So make sure it is selected liters per hectare. And it will show you here just a preview, and these are the different rates that you're working with. This is just an example, so obviously it will be different for everyone. So yeah, so as mentioned, just make sure all of those are selected. And then here you'll see a preview of your map. If that is what it should look like, then you've done all the steps correct. And I'll just give you here to just kind of some information just about how much you're actually applying, you know, the mid rate, the minimum and the maximum you're going to be applying. So if that looks correct, you can move on to the next step. Once you just go back and bring you back to this menu and you're ready to go. So now you will be able to see your map, where you are in comparison to it, and you turn on your sprayer and it will start going accordingly to the different zones. So now it's coming into this light zone, and here you'll see it all swapping. So yeah, so that's just a quick demo with an ag leader in commands. Obviously it differs for everyone if they have a different terminal, but this is just kind of a quick overview. So it's quite simple. We do have guides available, and if you had any help, we do have the call center, which is happy to answer any questions you have, or if you have any problems, they can help as much as they can. So just want to talk through a few practical tips regarding zone spray. So if you're new to it and it's your first time, you know, creating a variable rate application map, definitely my recommendation is have a look at a few biomass maps from the week. So let's say it's Friday and you have a map from Wednesday and Monday. Just have a look at the past few weeks. Just look at the build. Does that map look right? Is it you know, the one that best represents your field? If that is, you select that one. Obviously, again, if it's your first time, I definitely would recommend downloading a test application map and just importing your map into your terminal. You know, make sure it can read it and that you're kind of comfortable through the whole steps. As when you go into seasons, you know, things do get busy, and definitely you don't want to be playing around with your sprayer and trying to import a map in season. So definitely when it's quiet or if it's a rainy day, you want to test it out. Put some more clear into your tank mix, more through, go up maybe a tram line or two of a field to test it out. We do have test maps available, plus terminal guides for most commercial terminals on the market. And then definitely once you've created a variable rate map, we do get tank recipes. So you can see the overall, how much chemical, how much water you need. And just have a look at it, make sure you're kind of happy with that and you're happy with the mid rate. So work out on average, how much product you're applying. So just have a look at that. That's kind of my recommendation. Are you happy with that? You know, if you weren't, you can go back and readjust it. And definitely, you know, check up your machinery. Is it variable rate enabled? And just have a look at your nozzles. You know, definitely give them a clean at the beginning of the season before you apply. But you know, there's a lot of nozzles out there. Just, you know, make sure yours can do the variability that is required for variable rate application. And you've got a bit more time, you know, I definitely would recommend, you know, walking your field beforehand, whether it's yourself or your agronomist, using your note function and, you know, taking pictures, making notes of disease in the different biomass areas, just to give yourself a bit of understanding. And so when you're creating the application map, you know, you can choose the rates accordingly to the each zones, because they look different for every field. So that's my recommendation. So I'm just going to talk through a bit about the trial work that we're doing. So we're in the United Kingdom and across Europe. So France, Germany, and Ukraine, and United Kingdom, we are testing out variable rate functionality compared to flat rate. And we call these trials the on-farm development. So they are spread across the UK and across 12 farms. So this is something that we're working on. So as I mentioned, we're testing out flat rate versus variable. So a T1 or a T2 are sprayed variable fungicide and PGR or PGR, and then T0, T3 at farm standard. So we take a map in season. So this is an example here, this green one. Then we create an application map, and then we compare it against the yield. So this is kind of just an example of a field. So we do dose according to biomass. So this is just kind of a visual way of what we're seeing. This is what these biomass maps could represent. Like I said, it does differ for everyone depending what variety you're using, your field. You know, you'll get different zones, and this is just kind of a visual look at what these zones could look like. So we do dose accordingly to the zone. So looking just a bit about the results from this year's trials, across the 11 trials that we ran on winter wheat, we had an increase of 0.18 tons per hectare when sprayed in the variable rate tramlines areas compared to flat. And then when we looked at the economical impact, so what we're talking about that is the margin over input cost, it came to plus £42 per hectare more. So actually there was an increase on gross margin when sprayed at variable rate. So just to kind of summarize everything, it was a 0.18 tons per hectare more increase of yield in the variable rate areas, with the savings of, on average, between T1 and T2 of £12.42 per hectare. And the economical impact in the UK only was £42. And that's it for me for now. I'm just going to move on now to a live demo, and I'm just going to show you quickly how to use and how to create a variable rate application in xarvio. Okay, so let me just start sharing my xarvio account. So this is just an example of my xarvio account. So I got a field here, and I'm ready to create an application map. So let's just imagine that this field now is at stage 39, ready for its T2 application. So I click Add Task, and it'll bring me this menu. So you got your seeding, your crop protection, and nutrition, as I just described earlier. For the purpose of this example, I'm going to do a crop protection map. I then create next. And from here, there is a drop-down menu of all the products available in the UK. And it will tell you which ones are variable rate enabled. For this example, I'm going to use Veristar XE. So I selected it, and then I want to also add a PGR. So I'm going to use Canopy, which is also variable rate enabled. And I then press next. So I then have to tell the max rate I want to go to. So I'm going to, for the example, use 1.2. And then it will dose it down accordingly for me. So then for Canopy, let's say 1.6, and then it will dose it down. This is just kind of an example. So then I just want to then change my map. So I want to use my power zone map as a source, as this field currently is fallowed actually, so I'm not getting any imagery really from it. So I select my power zone, which is here called the multi-year 5 zones. And then once I'm happy with it, I set as a source. So here too, it gives you each zone, how many hectares it is, or in percentage. So the darker are my high LAI zones, and the lighter colors are my lower LAI zones. So then I press Save Application Map, and here to my right, I have just a quick summary of everything. So I can see here the spray zones, reminding me which products I'm spraying and how much water I will need, and per hectare basis, how much I will be applying. So then once you're happy, you press Save. So if you were fast enough, you could have clicked the taskbar there, but I wasn't. So I'll just go on to task here at the top of the bar, the tab, and I have my application map here. So I select one in this case, because I only have one, but if you have multiple spray applications that you create for other fields, you can select multiple at a time. So I go here, it reminds me of my spray application, what it was, and then I press send or download. So as I mentioned, if you were connected through the My John Deere link, you can press here John Deere, and I'll send it through there, or Imagery router. Or here you can download it either in a shape, so this has HP, or ISO XML. The choice is up to your terminal, so it's something that you need to know your terminal, which type of file it prefers, and then so you can download accordingly. And two, you can download a tank recipe, so you can bring with you as a hard copy exactly how much chemical you need. So when you go to the store, chemical store, you know how much to get. So for this example, I'm just going to use a shape file. So then it saves it for me. So you make sure it says save file, and depending how your laptop's set up, it will probably save it in your downloads. There, you just take your file from your downloads, and you move it into your USB stick folder, and just make sure you unzip it at that point. So now, let's say I spray this field. It's now come up to harvest, and I want to import my yield map. So I go onto my analytics tool, and here you'll be able to see all your maps. So I want to import my yield map. So I click Add Map and upload maps. And here I have an example of a yield map from the previous season, which was exported. So now I just want to re-import it. So I select the DBF file, and then I select the shape, SHP, and then I select the SHX file. So I just grab them, and I just drag them into the browser, or you can just click browse and it'll open your folders for you. Once it's loaded and it likes that, I can press review files. At any point, maybe your maps, aren't working, there's something just not right, you can contact the support either by phone or email, and they'll be able to help you with any issues you have with importing the maps. So I click the review maps. I select the field, so this is barn field, the crop season, map type, so it's a yield map. And then select date. Say I combine this on the 13th of August. And I select then the yield, so make sure it's tons per hectare. If you had any more other information from your yield map, at this point you can select it. If you don't select it, it doesn't make a great difference. But if you just wanted to make it a bit more accurate, you could. So what I mean by that, so if I just put select there, so it asks for the swath width. I know it's called a working width. Also, so this is when it gets a bit complicated. so working with, and I know that is in meters. And then the moisture, which is already labeled as moisture, which is in percentage. Vehicle speed, I know my combine map doesn't have that information. And then vehicle heading, which is just labeled as heading. So this will differ between each combine. So but at any point you need any support or contact, support will definitely help you. So then once you're happy with that, you press generate map. So it takes a few minutes for it to upload. So kind of for the sake of this, I've already pre-uploaded it. So you click onto your yield map and you should see it. So this is your yield map now imported into Xarvio. So if I wanted for the next cropping season, create a seeding task, I could. So yeah, so that's it from me. That's a live demo, and now handing back to Louis. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Anna. Great demo, great presentation. You know, a lot of detail there and lots to think about and look at. Now it's time for the Q&A section of the presentation, and you can see Luke and Anna are both on the screen with me. Thank you to those who have submitted questions already in the live chat. Certainly the more the merrier when it comes to questions, so feel free to add to those there as we talk. We've also had a couple of pre-submitted questions, which is perhaps a nice place to start. And the first question that we had that was pre-submitted is from Mark, who asks about using Xarvio to variably apply fertilizer. Are we better off using biomass maps or the power zone map? And maybe that's one for you, Luke.
Great, thanks, Louis, and a great question, Mark. Thank you. So for variable rate application fertilizer, we would suggest using the live in-season LAI biomass maps. And this is because you want to get the best understanding of the potential variability in your crop, particularly early on in the season. But also the power zone map can be used as a kind of a backup or a supplement if there's no recent LAI maps available. And we found that there's often a good correlation between the power zone map and the live LAI biomass maps that you receive throughout the season. But when planning for the fertilizer applications later in the season, the crop variability will be more visible within the LAI maps.
Yeah, great. So basically try and use a live image if you can, the latest live image, but if one of those isn't fitting what you're liking, then that power zone map, that 15-year average of that field is a really good backup. And I guess Anna, Phil mentioned during your presentation, he was asking around the variable rate nitrogen applications in the user-defined zones. Are they defined by the user, or is there anything in the background around specific algorithms that are telling you kind of what rate of nitrogen you should be applying in those different zones?
Yeah, no, good question. So currently you can do kind of your own rates. So you select your product as I've shown before, and then you can individually assign a rate for each zone. Depending what strategy you want to do, let's say you want to put more in the high biomass zones and less on the lower biomass zones, but you weren't really sure what rates to go. If you just say what your mid rate is, also Xarvio will recommend which zones it could go, but that can be overridden too. So there's kind of two methods, but it's still very the tool, it does need that user input, but yeah.
Perfect. So you as a user put your dose rate in, and then for a midpoint or for a high point or a low point, and then Xarvio will help you to vary that dose upwards or downwards depending on the strategy that you're looking to achieve. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to say it is really flexible for the variable rates fertilizer.
Great. Another question, Luke, on imagery. I know at the beginning of the presentation you were talking about leaf area index and NDVI biomass imagery. Can you explain again the difference between them and also what resolution we're able to achieve with xarvio?
Of course, of course. Leaf area index imagery, or LAI, and normalized difference vegetation index, or NDVI imagery, that information both originates from the same satellite information, but it's down to how that information is analyzed, which is where we see the difference. So LAI is looking specifically at the leaf canopy and the amount of light intercepted by the canopy. And the way that LAI biomass imagery is delivered means that the maps are comparable across fields and across the season. And that's because the scale is always consistent. So it's a lot easier to compare your maps throughout the season and see how it develops. But also with the LAI images, the way that it's analyzed means that we maintain a greater resolution throughout the season, and the LAI maps suffer from the saturation issue less compared to NDVI. And this means that the biomass variation in the field can continue to be observed for longer into the season. And to come to the resolution question, so we use two different satellite providers to collect the biomass information, and these are the Sentinel and Planet satellites, and the resolution can be as high as 3 meters by 3 meters.
Great. So we can have pretty precise biomass imagery to help, get the right targeted dose in the right place at the right time. And perhaps maybe moving on to you, Anna, and to talk about some of the kind of practical side in terms of actually getting these maps into your sprayer terminal and making a variable rate application. That to me is always something that feels a little bit difficult. Is that an easy process? What type of files can you export xarvio maps in?
Yeah, also a good question. I guess it's very, everyone has a different experience with it. And obviously available rate is still at its kind of early days. So currently, there's two type of files that you can export from xarvio. So it's a shape file, which contains 4 files in total, which most terminals do like reading. So like my John Deere, for example, is one that takes shape file quite easily. You just need to make sure when you're plugging in with the USB stick that the folder name is named correctly. That's very specific to John Deere, but with your sprayer kind of manual, it will tell you exactly. Other terminals, such as like the Mueller terminals, they prefer ISO XML, so we do have that in that format. So that's comes in two files, XML, it's like as an XML, and then a bin file, so BIN. So we do have those 2 options currently. Definitely, I think if this is your first time doing this, I would recommend just testing it out. As you have to update your software. There's a few things that you just have to make sure that you're up to date with. So definitely recommend testing it before the season starts.
Great, thanks, Anna. And then is this something that works with all machinery? How do I know whether my sprayer or my fertilizer spreader or my seed drill are going to be able to work variably?
Yeah, so first step is know your sprayer, probably put it simply. So have a chat with wherever you got the sprayer from. They should know whether it is variable rate possible, like the best way to say it. And then the second step is check your terminal, as currently the way the market is, some terminals come already variable rate enabled, whilst others you will have to activate it. So it's important that you check from machinery point of view that it is. So whether it's through calling the dealership where you bought it from or calling the machinery's helpline. And then the second step is your terminal. Again, have a chat with wherever you bought it from, but within our guidelines, we have manuals on our website, how to import and export variable rate maps. There is a part at the top of it is to check your license, so to check if your license is up to date, and that is enabled. So we'll also have our own kind of ways to kind of help the user see if it is enabled.
Great. So basically speak to your machinery dealer or your manufacturer, and they'll definitely be able to help answer your questions. I guess on the xarvio side as well, of course, we've got a hotline, haven't we? And a terminal test center. So as another port of call, certainly do reach out to the xarvio team as well if you're interested in applying variably and are looking at that. Should we change tact? I'm just having a look, seeing if there's any other questions that have come in live. I think we've got one more from Phil, which we'll pick up in a moment. Perhaps if we talk more about variable rate application of crop protection inputs. I don't know, Luke, or maybe Luke, do you want to pick this one up? How does our variable rate fungicide and PGR application work? And Phil's question is just around how does that work in terms of reducing the rate in certain parts of the field? Is there a resistance risk, for example, when it comes to using suboptimal doses?
Great, yeah. So for the variable rate application crop protection for fungicide products and growth regulators, it is how it works is when you're approaching, say, your T1 timing at the beginning of May, for example, you'll be looking to observe the latest live LAI biomass map that Field Manager provides, and looking at this and observing the variability in that image, and also then walking your crop as well to understand what variability you see in person in the field, and also to understand what disease pressure you're seeing in person in the field. And you decide that you want to vary your application for your T1 application. So within the system, you can take your latest LAI biomass map and use that as your source map. And xarvio Field Manager will split that map up into distinct zones based on that biomass variation across the zone. So zone 1 will be where you have the highest biomass in the crop, all the way down to zone 5, which is where you'll see the lowest biomass areas within that field, and that could be caused by several things, whether it's the soil or whether it's an area that's traveled on more, or whether it's has some standing water on it throughout the season, for example. And then what you can do is the user then decides how they want to vary their dose across them 5 zones. So you enter the dose rates for zone 1, so the highest dose rate that you want to go to, as that zone 1 is where the biomass of the crop is the highest, and then xarvio will automatically dose that down to zone 5 for you. So you saw in Anna's example with Revastar XC, a dose rate of 1.2 was used at the highest zone 1, and that was automatically dosed down to 0.8. So the logic behind that is, if we look at the zone 5, for example, where the biomass is the thinnest, we have less green leaf to cover. So we are taking away some of the active ingredients. From zone 1, we have more green leaf, so we are then reallocating that active ingredient to that zone where we've got more green leaf to cover. So the aim is for every green leaf and every part of the crop gets the same amount of active ingredients. So to come to Phil's second question, sorry. So we do have restrictions set within the system where a user cannot go below a certain defined lowest rates, and that's how we're stopping suboptimal rates being used, as you put it.
Great, Luke. Yeah, you answered that one well. Don't think I've got anything to add. As I say, do keep getting your questions in. We've got a couple of minutes left, but perhaps if I go to another pre-submitted one from Peter, and this one's about variable rate seed rates. So with the use of variable rate seed rates now widely being used to achieve more even plant stands across the field, does variable rate nitrogen still have a place, and is there an economic case for continuing to apply nitrogen variably? And perhaps if I pick this one up, I think it's a really good question and a really interesting question, and I guess it kind of boils down to, you know, what are we trying to achieve? And I guess we're trying to achieve as even an establishment and a crop stand as possible, and as high a yielding field as possible. And the more we can remove variability and the more even crop we can get, the better. So certainly variable rate seeding is going to go a long way to making that field more even. But of course, there are things that happen throughout the season that do build in variability. You know, it could be rabbits grazing, it could be slug damage, it could be a wet or a dry part of the field. So, you know, through autumn, coming out of winter, you know, even with variable rate seeding, you know, you're probably still going to see some variability. And I guess that is then where the variable rate nutrition comes in, and applying nitrogen variably to try and then even things up again. And then I guess beyond that, then comes in the tool that Luke was just talking around variable rate crop protection, and then evening up at that later stage too. So I think from my perspective, it's about looking at the end goal and then using all of these different tools along that path to try and achieve it really. So yeah, nice question. Thank you, Peter. And another one that's come in pre-submitted is from Philip, and maybe this is one for you, Anna. What sort of rates would you suggest for a good variable rate when thinking about growth regs and fungicides when applied at a base rate of 120 litres per hectare? So I guess talking about water rates here rather than product application rates. What things do you need to be careful of there, Anna?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So with water rates, it's again very specific to your machinery and especially your nozzles that you're using. So let's say you take your mid rate of 120 litres per hectare, that's what you normally work with. What xarvio will do then is calculate your, for each zone, the water rate it will go to. So let's say you have 120, the maximum will be 142 litres per hectare, and then it will dose down to 100 litres per hectare. So then once you know those rates, again, this is the first time you're doing this, I would definitely run a proper test. So clean out your sprayer, put some mold clear through, make sure it's clean, and just have put some water in and just have it run through and just check that when you're spraying at 142, you can even go a bit higher, 150, just to kind of give yourself that bit more room to work with, down to 100 litres per hectare, which is the lowest it will go. And just see, does your spray pattern stay? I guess, as I just mentioned before, it's very specific to the nozzles that you are using. So those xarvio will calculate it for you. As a user, you do need to double and check that your sprayer nozzles can work with those pressures.
Great, thank you, Anna.
No worries.
We've got a couple of minutes left, so maybe a couple of quick fire ones for Luke as we wrap things up. Anna, in the presentation, you mentioned something that's quite new coming from xarvio, which is xarvio Connect. Luke, I don't know, is it worth telling us a little bit more about xarvio Connect and what it is and when it's coming?
Yeah, no, happy to. I think it's worth taking a step back first and just talking about the existing methods that we have to move our application maps. So Anna did say within the system, we do have wireless connections with, say, My John Deere. So if you have a My John Deere account, you can link in your xarvio Field Manager account with your My John Deere account. So you can send your maps to your terminal that way, for example, and also a link with AgriRouter. But as you said, Louis, the xarvio Connect system is an exciting new piece of hardware which xarvio is bringing to the xarvio is releasing this season, which allows users to kind of use their terminal as if it's wirelessly to move their application maps forward and backwards with Xarvio. So Xarvio Connect is, in essence, it's kind of a purple box which has a SIM card in it, and this purple box plugs into the terminal, whether that's the terminal in your drill, or whether it's the terminal within your sprayer or even your combine harvester. You plug in this Xarvio Connect piece of hardware with a USB, and then that Xarvio Connect box has kind of acts as kind of a wireless transmitter and receiver, and it links to your Xarvio Field Manager account. So if you've created a variable application map within Field Manager, you can then automatically send that application map to your Xarvio Connect system, and then you'll be able to import that map into your terminal from the purple box that's plugged into your terminal. So it's a really quick and easy way to send that, and also to bring maps back the other way as well.
Great. So the days of USB sticks and carrying them around in your pocket are numbered. Sounds good. Definitely one to look out for on the Xarvio website. And then I guess finally we've covered an awful lot of variable rate application technology today and insights. Which Xarvio packages do the different variable rate technologies kind of fit into? How can I access them as a farmer or an agronomist?
Great, no, that's a really important question, and I'm surprised that we're only talking about pricing at this point. But if you're interested, the cost of Xarvio Field Manager and the different pricing packages can be found on our website. Just go to xarvio.com and then click on the pricing tab. So the functionalities within Field Manager are split into 3 different packages. So we have a basic package, a pro package, and a premium package. And the functionality around variable rate application of fertilizer and variable seeding and creating them maps sit within the pro package, which costs £200 per farm per year. And the functionality around creating variable application maps for crop protection, so fungicide and PGR, fit within the premium package, which costs £500 per farm per year.
Great, thanks, Luke. I think that's all we've got time for. That hour has flown by. Thank you very much, Luke. Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you for everyone that's been joining us and listening. Perhaps one final thing just to mention before we close. There are basis and Rosso points available for joining us this morning, and you can see those on the screen now. And the other thing is, you're probably aware this is one of a number of webinars that are happening on our BASF Real Results Virtual Farm. So do look out for the next webinar, which is on Thursday, which is all around oilseed rape and managing OSR crops in the spring. So do join my colleagues then. The next Xarvio webinar is probably about a month away. Luke will have to start working on that one quite soon. But yeah, in the meantime, do check out our other webinars that are saved in catch up. Do feel free to watch this one. It shouldn't be too long before it's up live as well for you to rewatch. So if you joined us late, that will all be there. And I wish you all a very pleasant day. Thank you very much.